the weight call was just a board weight here. You have Emily really trying to hold that line from crashing on the guard. It's getting really close. Great sweep by Emily to hold that line straight. I think the skip is patting the sweeper on the back for that one. I mean, that's one of the first many team shots we'll see this tournament. Very good sweep by Emily to hold the line. So for those watching at home, you'll notice a lot of the teams have thrown this intern path. Maybe both teams have felt out both sides of the ice in their practice, and they're feeling that this intern is the best way to get to the button. I think we've only maybe seen a couple out-turns or counterclockwise stones. So it'll be interesting to see if that pattern holds through for the remainder of the game.
Now that we have volume, welcome.
Yeah, we were talking to ourselves behind the glass, but we're happy to have you with us now. So for those who have been watching from the first stone thrown this end, we've seen a lot of intern draws, and I think potentially the curl is fooling the athletes a little bit, not seeing it moving as much as they expect to, or vice versa.
Now that 4 or 5 stones been down the same path, that path is going to be much quicker than some other parts of the sheet. I think for a tour here, you got to remember keeping it simple. You absolutely don't want to be behind T-line on this shot. Throw it to your sweepers, and if it ends up a guard, it ends up a guard. But how fast this path is, you're going to want to just throw it to your sweepers.
Sam, I know the ladies have thrown this path often, but I wonder if potentially the other turn could be more beneficial. If you end up light on the other turn and you guard, then the blank attempt is a lot more difficult.
I think you want to focus on using paths that you know.
No.
So I don't mind her taking this path. They did have a 5-minute practice, so they probably should know both sides of the sheet, but unfortunately, this path seems faster than what both teams think the time is. So we're probably going to see the exact same path. And probably a little less weight.
Yeah. I think the one thing that Lindsay needs to keep in mind here is they've thrown this path quite a bit. And I think through the first few rocks we've seen thrown, the sweepers can carry it pretty far. So giving shots like this to your sweepers can really make the difference in making the shot or not. Whereas if you're throwing it maybe a little bit heavier on a straighter path that's a little quicker, it might not come up for you.
I agree. As a sweeper, I would hope that they took some backline to hog line times or hog to hog times on their Tori's last shot, so they kind of know exactly what time they want. And right out of her hand, the one sweeper said it's better weight.
It's always good to see the sweepers engaged with the stone, not walking beside it.
This is a drop for one?
Yes.
So it needs to curl up a bit. Don't just slide deep. 1 red for Team Zemmelink.
Looking across the sheets for all of our viewers with interest in other games, on sheet 1 we had 1 point go towards the red team.
Steal.
Steal. A steal for steal. Or wait.
No, they had hammer.
They had hammer. Oops.
Yeah.
Final stones being thrown for everyone playing on sheet 2. Same with everyone else. So we'll get everyone up to date once the scores are up. So we have an in-turn draw, I believe, from Celeste. Trying to get to that top 4 foot, right on the red of the Junior Slam logo. Good first stone in that control zone, top 8 foot.
I agree. I liked how close the sweepers stayed to that stone. Obviously, you would like it 1 or 2 feet farther. But throwing a new path, it probably wasn't sliding as well as that in-turn in the first end. And I like what I presume she's playing is the delayed corner. I like the hit when the rock is in a good spot. Especially, you're only down 1. It's the second end of an 8-end game.
No, I agree, Sam. I think as the 5 rock rule has kind of progressed, you've seen a lot more teams attempting this delayed corner. Looks like a little bit of an overcurl and a rollout there, but I mean that rock was in a dangerous spot, so it is good for Team Thorne that it did get moved. I believe Celeste was asked for the same shot here, top 4 foot in-turn draw. Interestingly enough, I've seen both teams really utilizing that clockwise rotation, or for the right-handed thrower, the in-turn. I wonder if both teams just really liked that path in practice, so they've just decided to stick with it. Big sweep here to hold it.
Really important to stick around so Team Zemmelink can't put another one in the top 4. And the opportunity to throw a hit out wider that we haven't seen yet, so we're not 100% sure how this rock is going to react. Looks like she called normal, which I like.
One of our first, or I think there's been 2 other out turns thrown so far. So it'll be interesting to see how this one runs in relation to the in-turn path. Sweepers seem to be close. Got the job done. What are we thinking if we're Team Thorne here, Sam? If it's second end with hammer down a point, what are you thinking?
I liked her first call going out on to the right side, or to the left side of the sheet if you're looking at the camera right now. Solely because it's a different path that no one's thrown yet. Sure. Emily just threw that hit, so she gets to throw that hit again if you put the rock in the same place. Early on in the season and early on in the game, you want to put rocks in different paths just so the other skip has to kind of guess where the broom goes, and it makes it a little trickier. And I don't mind if this ended up as a corner guard either in the second end.
Yeah, I was almost thinking a corner guard wouldn't be a bad option to call.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Thorne came in with Lindsay Thorne came in with a game plan, and if I remember correctly from 2 years ago, very clean team. They're very defensive. Early on in the game, they're well coached.
Yes.
And my coach would say the same thing. He would like the first 3 ends to be a blank if possible.
Yeah.
So again, this rock was in a different position, and it just rolls out.
Really? Yeah, I think it's out, maybe.
Yeah, so.
No problem. D. Sam Steep says it's out of play, so it's out of play.
Well, the rock is right in front of me. I can see it live.
So just a quick sheet-by-sheet update. So we had Team Bone score 1 in the first. Team Deschennes steal 1 in the first. On our active sheet, we had Team Zemmelink steal 1. We had Team Aucoin steal 1. And then on sheet 6, we had Team Johnston take 2 with hammer. Lots of early steals so far. Got a close one to the side here.
And it seems like there's a trend whenever a couple of rocks go down the same path. It seems like it's speeding up quicker than the sweepers and the thrower is used to, but that did stick around and in kind of a good spot because you do have that red one in your view throwing at this. And you have to go inside out, which in the second end of one of the first events you're playing is not easy.
Yeah. Love to see the weight call from Emily there, indicating that they believe it's heavier. It's all about communication in the early season. Oh, seems to have taken off on them.
Oh, that grabs something at the end.
Bit of a forced error out there. We haven't seen many out there, especially coming that way at it. So it'll be important for Rebecca here to capitalize on that forced error and put another one in the rings on the other side of the house. Try to get that deuce in play.
It's really important when you're playing the keep it simple game and playing easy shots, and you want to make those easy shots well.
Yeah.
Take advantage of misses when you get them, because when you are playing an open game like this, you don't get a lot of misses. So it's really important that you take advantage of them when they come. Sweepers are backing off of this. And it just sticks around.
Team Thorne using every centimeter of those rings to navigate their potential 2-point score. And I think the other thing Team Zemmelink should take into account on this shot is how far back in the house that rock is. Give the extra inch or 2 of ice because the rock has that little bit further to travel.
I agree.
I'm honored.
Looks like for line call, I think the biggest thing I learned moving into a skip was, especially on hit weight, was to don't call the line right out of the curler's hand. You wait for the stone to get out to your broom. And obviously as a skip you learn your throwers throughout the season. But if Tori probably paused for a second or two, she would have realized the rock was tracking out before it started to curl, and she would have made the hit and stick. But we don't want to critique too much in the first game of the season.
No, and I mean, it's so early for all of the teams out there right now. Mm-hmm. It's all about getting back into that slide position, feeling good and healthy. So,
yeah. If I'm Team Thorne here, I'd probably want to put it right back where I had it before, like back 12. Yeah. At least, Because now, where it is now, it is in a good spot. There's no double, but she could roll over as far as to right beside the stone.
Kind of like a setup shot for the next one.
Absolutely. And being second end, I think you really want to make the hit and stick here and force Lindsay into making it back, right? Earning their deuce.
Yeah. Little bit of inside information here, but I know that the coach of Team Zemmelink would be saying, this one's a beach ball. Throw at it, make it go away. Get that roll over there is important, but make sure it goes away first. That's mission one.
I've probably heard that sentence about 105 times, and I'm still learning it. This is a great shot.
Sam, and I think I noticed a difference in the weights for these takeouts that we've been seeing. First end, more positive and firm. This end, it seems that they've started to like break the ice in, feel more comfortable, lower the weight so that they can stick around a little bit easier.
Yeah. It seems like both teams are starting to throw control weight. Now, for the parents at home, between normal and control is probably a whole second and a half faster than normal's a second and a half faster than control, roughly, hog to hog. And it just puts the sweepers into play when you're throwing a control weight hit. So that's normal, in my opinion. If you're hog to hog, 9.5 is definitely a little quicker than I think what they called. I think that's why you probably saw it track a bit, as she threw more weight than she wanted to throw, and it stayed a little straighter.
Yeah, and I mean, again, early season, first game.
Exactly.
It's not,
yeah.
You might, if you're not feeling comfortable, you might tighten up the ice and throw at it a little bit harder. But
the beach ball effect, like we just talked about.
The beach ball effect. So I think we're going to see Team Zemmelink try to position it on the T line, maybe a little bit higher on the right side of the sheet as we see it now. Top 8 foot, maybe.
It'd be great if it was T line almost full 8 foot. Just you're probably going to see Lindsay hit.
Yeah.
So you don't want to give them a lot of leeway on either side.
Sweepers seem to be staying close to it, which you always like to see.
Stops just in time. As predicted, she's going to play the hit and stick for 1. I'd really like to see her throw more of the control weight here than the normal.
Yeah.
9. So they're calling heavy.
Seems to be a solid weight. Don't mind the line early.
Just rolls out. So a steal of 1 for Team Zemmelink. Zemmelink will be up 2-0 going into the 3rd.
So it seems like we have Team Zemmelink sticking with a similar strategy, throwing their first one top 4. Ladies seem to be indicating it's a little hot.
And that's the same path in the first end that we saw. It just seems like the fastest path on the ice right now. And I'd really like to see one of the sweepers from either team to take a hog-to-hog in that path, just to communicate to the thrower that we need to have slower times.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting. I mean, I know it's only the second time we've headed towards the scoreboard, but we've seen this in-turn path be used quite a bit. And it seems that Team Thorne wants to set up this corner guard to utilize that in-turn come around it. So it seems to be close. Smidge heavy, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think the leads just decided that they only need 7 rocks per team this time, and that's fine. I mean, it keeps it interesting, right? So. Celeste being asked for that top 4-foot draw.
Even with the adjusted weight, I'd really like the sweepers to wait to the end to sweep, especially in this path. I think that this is about the 8th or 9th rock down this exact same path we've seen, and obviously it's sliding much better than other spots on the ice. And even that rock, out of her hand, they stayed close, and it still went to the back 12. It stuck around, but it still went to the back 12.
Yeah.
So you'll want to, you see Brooke adjust her weight here to make the guard. Set up the end for her team.
Yeah, Sam, I think the setup for each team, each end, is crucial to dictate how the end will turn out. I mean, a good setup could result in a multiple score for Team Thorne.
With the 4 rock rule, or the 5 rock rule, you absolutely every position is important for setting up an end for your deuce or your 3. With hammer and without hammer, it's important. Every position is important. The higher in the rankings you go, the more you see how important it is for every position to be making the simple shots. And for these young curlers, they get 2 opportunities for national events this year. So they're going to want to, obviously not peak right now, but they're going to want to get as much ice time as possible before the qualifiers of those events.
Yeah, and I think like everyone at home will hear it once and hear it all across the weekend. This is all about a learning and development weekend. Some of these teams are new, maybe their first, second tournament together. For some, it could even be their first opportunity on the ice. So it's all about just getting back into those good habits and all of those solid things that will come into play later on in the season.
Absolutely agree with you. Especially with COVID last year, there wasn't a lot of events being played. A lot of players couldn't be on the ice. A lot of clubs were closed. So if they didn't play the U25 event or the event last weekend, there was definitely first time on the ice. So
yeah. And just speaking of last weekend's event, shout out to everyone back in Saskatchewan. Had a lovely weekend with all the teams out there last weekend. Lots of learning, lots of laughs, and lots of fun. And that's what it's all about.
I like the hit call there by Lindsay. I think you're only down 2 in the third end. You have your corner guard. You don't need to be too aggressive and throw the draw or another guard, because it's only a 2-point game. Obviously, you want to make the hit and roll, but don't fall behind and get trapped.
Exactly. And I think the other thing too that Lindsay might have been thinking about when calling that shot is all it takes is a half shot from Team Zemmelink, maybe a rollout or a big roll wide, and then that corner guard is usable.
Absolutely. You saw it last end. You had one half shot or one miss, and you had an opportunity for 2. Exactly. So just don't stray away from the game plan and keeping it simple.
And Sam, I hate to say it, but we were right. I apologize to the Team Zemmelink followers. But it looks like we did get a rollout, and I think you're going to see Team Thorne come around that corner guard.
Caster's curse.
Caster's curse, I like it.
I'd really like the sweepers that swept Brooks' guard to communicate that you can probably throw a similar weight, maybe a couple feet more, and with sweeping you make the shot perfectly. You don't want to be too heavy here.
This is Emily's last stone. I believe the sweepers want to go for weight, but they're saying there's tons of line. It seems to be moving in there nicely for them, though.
Yeah, I think, and this is common in KW, it's been happening for years. It really glides on that center line, but as soon as it crosses, it really starts to go. That one just under Crow, that looks like McKenna has all of the rocks, so she's probably going to throw control weight. Yep. And keeping it simple, obviously you want to stick around, but if just getting rid of the stone is step 1. If you could roll to the edge of 4 foot, you probably see Lindsay maybe throw a hit other than the draw. So.
That's a pretty nice shot, especially this early in the season. Stick it there, force Team Thorne to deal with it.
Absolutely. And for Team Thorne, you only have to roll about a rock and a half to be buried. And if you end up making the double, that's always a good shot too.
Seem to maybe put that back to the room a little, so we'll see how it runs here.
And as I said, for for the last draw. You saw it glide on that center line.
Yeah.
But as soon as it crossed, it started to curl, and you saw that with McKenna's last rock. It started to curl right off the center line. If you're nitpicking, you definitely want to hit and roll over to the edge of the 8-foot here.
Yeah.
But like we said in the second end, you want to make sure it's a beach ball and make sure the rock gets out of the rings. It's the first step.
Especially as there is the potential for a jam.
Shouldn't have said that.
I mean, I said it after she threw it. But I think they're good.
She's good.
They're looking good. There you go. Nice shot. So, what are you thinking if you're Team Thorne here, Sam?
I'd probably throw the hit and roll still. It's only the third end. You're only down 2. You end up making the double. If you end up getting a blank here, it's not obviously not the end of the world.
See if Rebecca can make the adjustment. Looks close.
I like the weight she threw there. She brought it down from her first one. But like we saw before, the rock really didn't want to cross the center line there. Now, interesting enough, even though Team Zemmelink is shot rock in the back 8-foot, they are electing to hit. In the third end of the game, you probably do want to throw the hit. You could easily throw a draw here and put the pressure on Team Thorne, but that, again, gives them an opportunity for 2.
Yeah.
So I like the hit.
I think the defensive game seems to be working pretty well for Team Zemmelink so far. So, big hold here by Emily to try to keep that rock straight. I think that's another one of those pat your sweeper on the back shots. Emily did a really nice job holding that to avoid the jam.
Yeah, it's a great sweep because for the 5th time in a row, if it gets off that center line, it's going to curl. So for Lindsay, she has to decide what shot, because at this point you're probably going to get forced unless you want to make the double. So do you draw around your corner guard, or do we draw around the rock in the top 12?
Yeah, and I think the decision on this shot depends on the end goal that was set before the first few stones were thrown. I think if Team Thorne was looking to maybe bide their time, maybe playing a little bit more defensively, they could take a crack at the double, try to blank this end, going down 2 into the 4th end. But it seems like the ladies are eager and ready to get on the board and try to manufacture a deuce.
I agree. This is a little more of an aggressive call than we've seen so far, but I like it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, Sam. I think the rust is falling off and everyone's feeling comfortable. And as we say that, maybe they'll change the shot. The one thing that I always made sure was a team rule on the teams I played was if you're still unsure, I think it would be important for Lindsay to go back down to the other end, reset her pre-shot routine, be decisive, and throw. But again, early season, I'm sure that's something their coach, Kim Wilson, will potentially talk to them about. Looks close out.
It's a great shot.
And look at that. Make me eat my words. She doesn't need to go back down. She's got that double. So excellent shot by Lindsay to get them out of a bit of trouble.
I wouldn't mind rolling behind the corner guard here. The Tori Zemmelink suggested the roll to the open side, which is fine. Obviously, up to you want to make sure the rock is gone.
I think rolling behind the corner, there's pros and cons to both. I think the only thing you have to worry about if your team's Zemmelink is if you over-roll, you could potentially leave it to hit half a rock, jam it, and roll in. I mean, again, nitpicky, only third end. But if it happens, I have Sam laughing. So, anyhow.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Beach ball effect.
Beach ball effect.
Right on the beak. So depending how far that guard is, you could play the split on that yellow. It looks pretty tough with where the red is. So I imagine they're going to take their blank. But she suggested to throw the draw.
I think they're playing for the split, Sam. I mean, it's definitely preference. They've seen this path a couple times. I like how decisive Lindsay was when she set down the broom, though. She seemed pretty sure that this is the shot she wanted to play. So, we'll see it happen. Seems to be close here for Team Thorne.
I think they were just playing the draw for one.
I mean, they threw a good weight for the split. Maybe.
And I think that stuck around, yep. So one yellow. We have a 2-1 game going into the fourth.
And I mean, personally, Sam, obviously teams play for their deuce, but I don't mind taking the point, especially when you've had 2 steals against you. It kind of gives you a good opportunity to reset and continue the second half of the game.
Sometimes you need a change of pace. I agree with you on that. You put your center guard, maybe your double center. You put it on the top 4, and you start putting pressure on the other team.
And I think from previous tournaments I've seen Team Thorne play, they do like to play with a few guards and play, kind of maybe make it a little bit more complex for their opposition, more of a finesse draw team, potentially. So I think this kind of suits that style.
I agree. And it looks like Tori Zemmelink has been reading the playbook. She's playing the draw around the wide corner.
Now, Sam, why would Tori be throwing the rock this way for the viewers at home?
As if you miss light, it'll end up as a corner guard.
I see.
If you miss light going around the center line, you're making a center guard and you're helping the other team. A little bit of a slip by Celeste.
See, I've played with Celeste back in the 6-1-3 previously, and I mean, she's so flexible. she's like a spider monkey out there. So, I mean,
613.
Ottawa. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Just
Ottawa
say
peeps.
Ottawa
know.
area,
The
please.
Ottawa peeps know.
Thank you.
But so I think Celeste shook it off. She's looking okay out there.
The good news is she gets to rewatch that over and over and over again on our YouTube when we post the video. And as you said, Ryan, they're going to try and get the double center here. With a big sweep to get over.
It's close.
Great sweep. Oh! Just hit the brakes at the end.
Sam.
I know.
It
was a great sweep. You know what? Even though it didn't go over, it was a great sweep.
It was a great sweep. That was a forced error by Sam from behind the glass. But, yeah.
I play 100% back here. So. I think most of the paths are up to speed, so I think the sweepers and the throwers are going to have to adjust a little bit as the ice is obviously getting faster throughout the game. Really like to see some hog-to-hog times from both teams, or some backline to hog-line times. Especially early on the season, like use that stopwatch to your advantage. I know numbers can get in your head sometimes, but like we said earlier, this is the first event. It's a learning event. You're just trying to get ready for qualifiers. And another great sweep.
Yeah.
Right. Like the peel call here. I liked the turn she called the first time because you had the opportunity to make the double peel.
I agree, Sam. I think either way, like you're.
Oh, there we go.
They have the earpiece on.
They must have heard us. I didn't think there was mics out there that they can hear us, but
no. I think Tori's one concern with throwing this handle is maybe that it could be a little straighter. I think she signaled that it might run a little straight. I'm not sure, but we'll wait and see.
I like as a skip. I like my second to kind of choose the handle they want to throw, what they're comfortable with, because they're the ones throwing, they're the ones making the peel, and just missed the double peel there. But like I was saying, I think it's important that you keep your thrower comfortable, especially in shots like that. You can do either or. Obviously, I like the way they chose because you could make the double peel and it just under curled. For Team Thorne, you're probably going to see the same guard go up.
Yeah.
Even though it's a 2-1 game in the fourth, I like the aggression Team Thorne is going with here, because if they do throw the draw too early, you'll see Zemmelink peel, and it's going to be a pretty open end.
Yeah.
The only downfall is if Team Zemmelink decides to play the draw before you and makes it good. That's the only downfall you have with throwing the center guards. But this guard is much tighter, and it's in what I like to call the control zone.
Yeah.
So you'll see Tori peel that one pretty quickly. Yeah.
And I think this kind of end progression is what Team Thorne probably could have expected when they chose to make that split attempt, which ended up being a single. I think they were ready to put some rocks in play.
Yeah, I agree. If you're deciding to take one / just missing
For the deuce.
the shot for 2, you're absolutely deciding to play more aggressive the rest of the game. That one curled a little bit on her, but it did roll to a corner guard.
So then, Sam, if you're Team Thorne, when's a good time to maybe bring the play into the house?
Probably Vice's last shot. I like the guard here again. You're going to see Team Zemmelink peel again.
Yeah.
And then on Vice's last, I like the draw because now that there is another corner, another guard out there.
Yep.
Once they peel, you'll be able to split the house. You get the force. You could throw a guard and try to go for the steal, especially in the 4th end, playing the scoreboard. So I think this, if I was calling the game, this would be my last card.
Last card. Okay. So McKenna being asked for the peel.
For Emily sweeping, you want your head down. You don't want that rock to cross center, because as soon as it crosses, it does exactly that. We see how straight it can be if you can hold it off the center line.
Yeah.
But I don't think any sweeper is going to be able to keep it not to curl once it crosses.
Yeah.
And for Team Thorne, you got the miss you wanted.
Yep.
Put this in a good spot, like we said in the second it makes after misses. Put this in a good spot in the top 4 foot.
The one thing I noticed Lindsay gesture to, especially early season when we're still shaking off the rust, is where the tolerance is. She indicated to Rebecca that having a zone 3 or top 12-foot stone is definitely the side you want to lean on, because if you're back 12, back 8, you might see Team Zemmelink come around.
This looks like it's curling. Thank you. And that is awfully close to being in the rings. Now if you're Team Zemmelink, I think you have to draw. There's no easy peel. If you peel into the red, it could bounce into the rings. Definitely a tougher shot.
Yeah, Sam, I mean, I don't mind this shot because most often peel the center, open it up, the skipper will have a shot for at least a point.
I think because she's calling this, the red one is not in. If that top red one was in, you'd definitely be throwing the draw.
That's true.
Go over top the red one now. And pretty good outcome for not an easy peel.
Yeah.
Obviously you didn't want your red one to stay in the center line. But now you have 2 splittable stones.
Yeah.
And for Lindsay, she big draw here to keep it in the rings, buried, but preferably top 4.
Yeah, I think with how the end has progressed, if I'm Team Thorne, if they're sitting 1, I don't think the hit is your call, but if they were sitting 2, then I think so. It seems to be very close, though.
Both teams looked at it. Yeah. But like I said before, I imagine Tori wouldn't have called the peel if that red one was in the rings.
Very true.
So big draw here for Lindsay.
So I think the sweepers would have communicated to Lindsay, we've seen this path many times, we have an idea of what it's doing. So this one should be close.
Yeah, weight was not the problem on their last draw. It overcurled on them, so they're going to want to keep an eye on this as it gets closer to the center.
Really going for line here. Nice sweep.
They're going to want to stop sweeping. It doesn't go in open. It's a great shot.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Team Thorne, I'm thinking having it over-buried. I don't know if that hole is there, but airing on that side is a lot better than airing on the center line side.
I think you could probably get through the hole with a board weight. If that red one's in, you're probably throwing the run back on the center line. I think the run back might be the call, because if it overcurls, it goes off your red and rolls into the rings, then Team Thorne has to decide whether they want to hit or not.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with running that center line red one in with a controlled weight or something is, even if you don't get your plan A shot, you at least open up the middle to have an easier shot for the skipper to throw her last.
I think that's what Celeste is mentioning. Told her to turn off the earpiece before the game, but she didn't.
Also, I just wanted to point out for the viewers at home, I love that front end interaction. On my team, we always had a rule that we had one designated front end player come forward, bring an idea, and kind of just present it. And then notice how Celeste just backed away. She said, "Look, ladies, did you consider this?" And then talked about it for a few seconds and let them make the final decision, which is great to see.
I agree. On our team, we call it the voice of reason. Doesn't happen a lot, but when you need someone to remind you to play the keep it simple shot, or the obvious shot that you might not see behind the house, you definitely want one front end player to be that person.
Yeah.
And they listened to her. She suggested this shot. I think it's the call. Because if you make the peel, Lindsay has to decide whether she wants to be aggressive and throw the guard, or split the rings and get the force.
I have a feeling that, no, I'm not going to say anything. We're going to let the shots play out.
Because you could see the momentum swing.
Yeah. Emily being asked to hold it here.
See, she had options. She hits that just a little bit thicker. That red one rolls into the rings.
Yeah.
Lindsay probably has to hit, right? Now she could be aggressive and throw the guard.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think even if you saw one of those red stones roll into the rings, I think you would have seen Team Thorne try to cap it and throw a guard. I think they're really trying to be aggressive, be offensive, and push Team Zemmelink to make their shots.
Yep.
So it looks like that guard overcurled a little. And I think we'll see a blank attempt from Team Zemmelink.
Well, where the broom is, unless they're doing like a control weight blank attempt,
Yep.
I think they might try and stick around here.
Maybe one of those red stones is a little bit more in than we can see.
Well, we've seen them look at it multiple times. Haven't got the overhead view on it yet, but
Yeah.
hint, hint.
I mean, I also don't mind Team Zemmelink even if the other ones aren't in there, scoring in the even ends is never a bad thing.
Especially when you're up one.
Yeah, and even if you score a point, 3-1, so we'll see what happens here. Oh. That center line effect that you mentioned, Sam, seems to be holding it.
The way they were calling line, I think they wanted to stick around.
Yeah.
Since it rolled out, I think they're going to measure to see if that rock is in or not.
Yeah.
But like we saw with Lindsay's guard and we saw with that last hit, as soon as it crosses the center line, even with that bigger weight, it just goes. So they'll want to keep that in mind for the rest of the game and the rest of the weekend. I think every sheet is doing that right now. And it looks like it slid right past it. So it's out, the blank for Team Zemmelink. So 2-1 game going into the last 4 ends. And that center guard just slides deep in that fast path that we were talking about. So Tori's going to take advantage and hit. I think the game plan for Team Zemmelink is going to be blanking this end after they just blanked an even end. They'd love to be up 1 going into the 6th with hammer. Obviously keeping it simple if you get your deuce. Obviously you take it. It's a great shot by Celeste. And Team Thorne keeping with the aggression, calling the guard. I like this call. You're down 1, you don't want a blank. So I like this guard, and we obviously want Brooke to adjust from her last guard. And with the sweeper staying close, weight must be close, but they're backing off now. Both teams having a hard time keeping that stone in that path, getting the rock to stop. So advantage Team Zemmelink, you're going to want to hit and roll to the wings and sit too early on in this end. I like the weight call right out of their hand. Oh, and it looks like this rock grabbed. Yeah. Definitely picked, but they got lucky that they still got to hit the stone out of the rings. And for Team Thorne, they got to decide. Keeping the aggression, throw the guard. Be nice for Team Thorne to adjust here and make the guard and put the pressure back on Team Zemmelink. Emily Kelly swept the first two guards, so she should know that she needs to bring the weight down. And with the sweeper sweeping, I imagine she adjusted well. Big sweep. Team Zemmelink peels, and you're probably going to see a lot of that until the Vice's last rocks. Guards and peels. Very interesting situation as that center guard didn't curl enough. Creates a corner card for Team Zemmelink, and they're going to try and take advantage of that. I imagine this rock should dive once it crosses the center line. And rocks slid better than they thought, as the sweepers were sweeping that most of the way down. But it seemed to work. For Team Thorne, they have to decide whether they want to throw the draw around the corner or the hit and roll. In a one-point game, I like the hit and roll, and I think that's what they're going to play. If it stays shot, that's a great It's a good shot. It looks like Team Zemmelink can see half to 3/4 of the yellow. But I like the draw. Both rocks are behind tee line. If you put this full 8, full top 8, you're going to be in a good position to get your deuce. Big sweep to try to get by. And with good weight, we saw the rock curl a lot more than the back 8 weight than it just did. Now for Team Thorne, whether they're shot or not, they obviously want to play the draw to the top 4 foot here and put pressure on Team Zemmelink. This is going to really curl. If it's close weight, it's going to react similar to McKenna's rock and really dive towards that center line, as it just did. Looks like they're bringing it right back. If they tap their yellow, they're probably only sitting 1, but the force is definitely on now. Oh, they're playing the hit. And it snapped off the center line. So for Team Thorne, you absolutely want to put this biting 4 foot, maybe even half in the 4 foot, buried, and get Tori to draw against 2, maybe 3, depending on. Team Thorne, the sweepers are calling heavy, but the rock is curling quite a bit. If they communicate a little more. The weight was heavy, but it wasn't that heavy. But the rock ended in a good spot where Team Zemmelink are going to have to take a little bit of a wider draw to no backing and need to finish full 8 foot, biting 4 foot for 1. Oh. Okay. Very dangerous shot here if they end up trying to play us. Arguably speaking, I think yellow is only sitting 1 right now. So playing this, he could give up to 3 points playing this shot. Not 100% sure what she's trying here. Because I don't see how you can score throwing this. It could be that yellow is sitting 2 and they're trying to just give them 1.
Is this second?
Oh, it's a second. Oh, never mind. It's not the last stone.
It's like Sam.
I thought she already threw 1. I like the hit and roll now. And that's ended up being a really good shot.
Yeah, I think it worked out.
It worked out well for them, yeah.
I mean, I think the support team behind the glass was holding their breath a little, but it seemed to have worked out well for them, and probably see Team Thorne make a play on that red stone in the house to force, or...
I like the draw. She just threw it. She knows the weight. And you could really put the pressure on Team Zemmelink. I think throwing the hit kind of takes the pressure off almost, unless you roll it into a really good spot.
I think the other thing that Team Thorne could be keeping in mind here, Sam, is it is the 5th end. If you can stick around in the paint, you're most likely going to get a force opportunity, and then you would have Hammer playing the 6th end. So it could be a bit of a scoreboard management call here in that regard.
It's definitely the safer play, yeah, because if you do miss the guard, or if you do miss the draw, they have an opportunity for 2. And that's what she elected. She could easily kill 2 birds with 1 stone here and make a perfect roll and make me stop talking. I think she has a piece of that stone. Asking her sweepers to see how much they see in the hack. This is going to jump off the center line quite quickly. And I probably hit it a little too fast to roll it on. And it'll be a steal of 1 for Team Thorne. Going into the 6th end, we have a tie game. So tie game going into the 6th end. I think Celeste suggested the corner guard, and I like the corner guard as that Yellowstone is not in a threatening position. It did go into the back 8. It's not, you don't need to play the delayed corner. Because odds are it won't be the Rock that's scoring at the end of the end. So for Celeste, it's her first guard of the game. I'd like to think there was some communication on how fast it is.
Yeah, I think the speed of the ice is just maybe surprising the athletes on both teams. And I mean, across all sheets, we've seen a few heavy ones by all players. So I'd like to see that extra communication, make the adjustment, kind of figure out why that's been happening and how they can make the adjustment from that.
I agree. First team that adjusts is what we've seen in the first 5 ends is the team that has adjusted to draw weight has scored. Same for Brooke here. Her first guard slid into the rings. They're going to want this to be a nice tight guard. Just crossing center line would be perfect. I like that Team Zemmelink. The corner guard didn't work out. Team Thorne threw out the center guard. I like the hit and roll here. You don't want to get too far behind trying to focus on the sides when you can get your deuce with one guard in play. Big sweep here. And though it rolled open and stuck around, you almost didn't want to roll buried, as it would have been backing for Team Thorne. Team Thorne sticking with the aggression as it's worked the last couple of ends. Put this one in the top forefoot.
So it looks like Lindsay is calling Emily to sink one top forefoot behind that guard. The sweepers are really going for everything they have here to try to bring it to the center line, get it in scoring position.
It's interesting that Rock stops in an interesting spot. I like the peel here. I was wondering if Team Zemmelink would throw the draw, sit 2. Because that Rock is half guarding their redstone now, where that Rock ended. But the defensive game has been relatively doing well for them, and
yeah, I mean, I'm not super surprised to see the peel here. I mean, I think that's the shot that Team Zemmelink has been very successful with, and that kind of strategy has been working pretty well for them so far this game.
Yeah, I agree. And they're getting, obviously, the right call because they're getting Team Thorne to throw another center guard. Lindsay just said, I think it's too early to go in. I agree.
Yeah.
The aggression is working. Let's get some center guards in. Let's get. You don't need to be shot rock right now. You're still on the second stones.
Yeah, and
I absolutely like the guard.
yeah, I think the aggression is part, like, right out of Team Thorne's playbook. I mean, the aggression got a bit of a forced error out of Team Zemmelink in the fifth end. So, asking Emily to put a nice zone 2 guard, I believe, up there on the center line. Just across the sheet update for all those viewers at home. So we have Team Steele leading Team Dobson 7-2, playing the sixth end. Team Steele is hammer.
Team Vivier is up 7-2 against Team Anderson on sheet 2.
On sheet 3, we have Team Deschênes leading Team Crozier 5-0, with Team Crozier having the last stone in the fifth end. You guys know what our featured sheet score is. On sheet 5, we have Team Bernard leading Team Alcoin 3-1.
Team Alcoin is up 3-1.
Ah, I can't read. My apologies. Okay. And then we have Team La Doucière leading Team Johnston 3-2, playing the fifth end. Team Johnston has hammer. So on our sheet, it seems that Team Zemmelink has their deuce set up in the sixth end.
Yeah, that was a great hit and roll by Emily Madaw to set up the deuce. For Team Thorne, they called a center guard and it slid into the rings. But I like that Lindsay sees that they're one shot in trouble and decided to play the hit and roll. In a tie game, that's absolutely the call. If you make the roll behind the guard, or if you make the roll on top of the red one, you're in a good spot. And it looks like with control weight, you're seeing hits curl a little bit more than they were before. And that was probably closer to board. That weight came down quite a bit. But they make the hit and roll. They are shot rock, and Team Zemmelink has to make a decision because they can't roll to the wing anymore without jamming. First sheet is finishing up as Team Deschênes wins 7-0 versus Team Crozier after 5 ends. That'll be the first team off the ice. And on our featured sheet, Team McKenna makes the nose hit, and Team Zemmelink is still sitting 2.
So it'll be interesting to see if Team Thorne tries to play the double or the hit and flop under. I think they signaled for the double, so we might see maybe a normal weight hit here. So got a close one.
Makes the perfect double.
Great shot. Sam, I love to see the weight control called on that double. I mean, it does make it easier if you can just explode the rocks off of each other, but Rebecca knew to throw just enough weight, get the line right, make the double. And now another potential trouble averted for Team Thorne.
Yeah, I agree. I think I like the weight because if that does curl, she could make the hit and roll and be shot stone. hit and roll is pretty close here.
It's a very nice shot by McKenna. Get the hit and flop behind that corner guard.
It's in a good spot. They can hit. They probably can throw. With the way the rock is curling, the way the ice is curling, you probably could throw board weight and get to the nose here. If you're Team Thorne, you can also decide to draw.
I was gonna say I think I've seen Team Thorne kind of lean toward the draw, but they seem to be.
But that red one, it's in too good of a spot. It's hard to draw and be shot stone.
Fair.
You'd have to put the yellow one basically right beside the red one to be shot stone without an easy shot for Zemmelink to hit it out.
Yeah.
So I like this call. Like I said, you're okay with the blank. If you hit and roll to the wings, if you're Team Thorne, you hit and roll to the wings, Zemmelink hits and sticks, you hit and stick, you blank and you try to force in the 7th end to come home with hammer. Down 1.
Tied.
Well.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant no.
It's okay.
But yeah, and I think you have convinced me that this is probably the A1 shot. Looking at the scoreboard, blank isn't bad for Team Thorne. So.
Big sweep by the sweepers to get it by the guard. Just touches it. Now decision time for Team Zemmelink.
What are you thinking you would do in this situation, Sam?
It's a great question.
I think I know what I would do, but I'll let you go first.
I think you want to go top 8, biting top 4 foot around the center guard, because if you don't, they will.
Yep.
The only thing, I would love to keep it half open. I would like where Tori, I would like where Tori's broom is. If you keep the rock, if you could place the stone right now, that's probably exactly where you want to put it.
Yeah.
Because you know Team Thorne's going to play the hit and roll.
Yeah.
You know this path is fast.
Yep.
And the sweeper should remind her of that when she gets into the hack.
Yeah.
About the only position you don't want to leave it is back 4 foot.
Yes, for sure.
You can be back 12, you can be top 12, you can be, about back 4 in a guard is about the only place you don't want the rock to be.
Yeah. Would you ever go open side and spread them out? I mean, I know that would offer Team Thorne a hit and roll, but that is a pretty precise shot.
Yeah, if you can absolutely put it in the 8 foot edge of 12 over there. You're just given the opportunity.
Yeah, to get out of trouble.
To get out of trouble for Team Thorne, and they've done that the last couple of events. They've made
That's very true.
They've made the big shot to force them / steal. So this is the quick path. So sweepers need to say if this is behind T, you're going to want to put it back 8 foot. You don't want to leave it in the back 4 foot.
Yeah.
So for Team Thorne, you kind of got to decide: do we play the draw? Do we play the hit and roll? Tie game, I think you have to play the hit and roll. It's tougher with the hit and roll to roll to shot stone. I imagine with the broom placement, they're playing a light control weight here to roll a little lower. You don't want to throw too heavy, and you're not going to roll to shot. Little caster's curse, because I said.
Yeah.
Red doesn't want to put it anywhere but the 4 foot. But
I think the key thing here is going to be the weight control from Team Thorne. Throwing the appropriate weight to hold it, but also get the sweepers involved to position their last stone in the best possible place.
I agree. I think they just threw this path, and now there's no guard there. So I'd like to see a similar weight she just threw.
The line calling seems it seems close.
Just over curled on them and so just an over curl there. At the last second you saw Rebecca try to make the thin double. Unfortunately didn't curl enough to make the thin double. So an open draw, I like that she took the same path.
Yeah.
I'm sure the sweepers are telling them similar weight, you can get away with throwing it 2, 3, 4 feet lighter. But you don't want to throw much heavier, so it's probably what they said before. Especially with the sheet beside them being empty now. Try to really focus on that path, it might change now.
Seems heavy, but I'd love to see the ladies cleaning it unless they think it's very heavy.
Yeah, this isn't curling as much as her first one. Big sweep by Rebecca. Looks like it's out. So 1 red for Team Zemmelink.
Bit of an unforced error there, but I mean at the same time, looking at the scoreboard, scoring in the 6th then to take the lead is never a bad position to be in.
Yeah, it's obviously unfortunate. You never want to miss your last stone, but you have to think of some positives. You scored in the 6th. That's an important end to score. You're up 1. It looks like she's calling top 4. So it seems like they're comfortable being up 1 because if Team Thorne decides to blank.
Yeah.
They're comfortable being up 1 without in the last end.
So the dreaded second last end.
I was wrong. They called the center guard. Team Thorne deciding aggression.
Aggression.
It's been working for them. I like the corner guard here.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, I know every team plays the second last end very differently, but I think you're going to see Team Thorne go for the multiple. And I mean, it is getting close to the end of the game, so it's time to get ahead if you can.
So if this is in the rings, as sweepers, if you know it's going to slide in, you almost want to put it T-line so it's deeper into the rings.
Yeah.
But again, first game.
Didn't get the roll they were looking for, but at the same time, hitting and sticking, it's never a bad shot, and I mean, it's something that Team Thorne might have to deal with.
I like this call. If you make the perfect nose, it's going to be a corner guard. Team Zemmelink won't be able to hit it.
Yep.
And if you do roll in, you almost commit to no corner guards at that point, and you either get your simple deuce or you blank and be down one with hammer going into the last end.
Yeah. Nose hit, I believe it's out of the rings.
Looks like it. If she's calling the guard, it would be out of the ring. So it's a great shot by Brooke. And for Emily, it's her turn to throw the draw down. Probably the fastest path on the sheet.
Yes, it's been used quite heavily by both teams. So hopefully the sweepers have communicated that and they can make the adjustment here.
Tori wanting them to curl it, but they don't want it to be behind T. Though it's not buried, he buried a piece, so they won't be able to hit
And roll under.
and roll under.
Yeah.
I like the peel call. I also like the hit and roll.
I think it depends on the end strategy. I think if you're a team that's more comfortable being up, playing the last end without hammer, I think you're going to play the hit and roll. If you like to have that last stone advantage, I think the peel would be what you're looking for. I mean, the offensive has worked for Team Thorne for most of this game, so I think they've settled on the hit and roll.
There's a lot of leeway with the shot. You make the center guard hit and roll to a corner guard. That works too.
Yeah, I mean,
You have two corner guards now. That's a very lonely red one. Now Tori needs a side. I would love the hit and roll, and that's
I think the gears are turning in her head. It's almost like you can see her thinking, are we going to go for the steal? I think we see the coach signaling for timeout, and we have a timeout.
As some of you viewers may know, Team Zemmelink's coach is Stuart Anderson, who is my team's coach. I knew he was going to call timeout there.
Yeah. Have you put yourself in that situation before, Sam?
I've put myself in this exact situation before. Stu's going to go, and he's just going to tell him to play the hit and roll.
Yeah.
You know, in the playbook, at least our playbook, we're okay with being up one without in the last end.
Yeah.
So make the hit and roll, sit to, put the pressure back on Team Thorne. And for Team Thorne and their coach, they're just going to discuss trying to get around those corner guards, trying to get our deuce at this point.
And I think, given both of the coaches that we have on this sheet, they're both very accredited. They've both represented Ontario before, coaching different teams. So I think both of them have seen situations like this before. They know what to tell their teams and what to keep in mind with the game almost wrapping up. So I think if I'm Kim, I'm going out there and I'm reassuring Team Thorne, we've been close. The aggressive strategy has been working for the most part, and don't hesitate to maybe push the envelope a little bit more.
I agree. especially because they have 2 corners now. Team Zemmelink is going to hit one of them. But you still have a corner guard. You still have a good setup to get your deuce. Make the hit and roll on your next shot, is imagine what Kim mentioned to them.
Yeah.
For Team Zemmelink, mission accomplished. You got rid of that corner guard. And Team Thorne has decided to stick with the 1 corner. Let's play the hit and roll. If we end up blanking, we end up blanking.
I think the one thing Team Thorne needs to keep in mind for the next few stones is hitting and sticking. So whatever weight or rotation you need to do to make sure you stick around, it's super crucial. Even if you don't get the roll, that's okay. But sticking around is what's important, and it looks like they've done that.
Yeah, that's a great shot from Emily. And we're probably going to see some trading of hits on our sheet as both teams are seemingly okay with the blank.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the one thing Team Thorne's keeping in mind is that they have an opportunity for what we call like a soft deuce. If they can get that hit and roll under the corner, there could be a potential to force an error or a more difficult shot. So I think that's what they'll be looking to do here.
Yeah, especially where the rock is now, you'd love to hit roll behind the corner. You'd be above tee behind a corner guard. Be a great shot. Looks like it is riding the center line. Should stick around though. Nothing better than to start the season off with a 1-point game going into the 7th, almost 8th end. Trying to get this to curl so it doesn't roll out, and unfortunately it does. And so, advantage Team Thorne here and try to get their draw around the corner here.
Yeah, I think I like the call. If you have an opportunity for 2, you might as well go for it. And I mean, they've thrown this path in other ends prior to this one, so they should have an idea of what it's moving like out that way.
I agree. It's the 7th end. We should know the straw path and should know the weight.
Yeah. I think we just saw Emily kind of telling Rebecca what to expect out here in terms of curl and speed.
They're calling line only, hoping that the curl slows this rock down. Be interesting to see what Team Zemmelink decides to do. Do they peel and accept the blank, or do they play the draw?
I have a feeling that peeling that corner guard is the play I would like to see from them, just because it's consistent with the previous call. Those corners can hurt you. If you sink one behind the tee line, Team Thorne freezes, the deuce is still in play.
Yeah, at this point you've accepted that you're happy with being up one without in the last 10.
Exactly.
Why reverse the call now? Now, if this was Skip's last,
yes, very different.
Very different position,
yeah.
Right? I think their coach called a timeout for a reason to play the hit and roll earlier in the end. So I think if they go back to that, they'll know that probably the peel is the call.
Yeah. And the other thing, too, the defensive play has been working for Team Zemmelink. They've been pretty consistent with keeping it clean, keeping it simple for a majority of the end, and it's worked out for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing about the draw, arguing that it could be the call, is that there's Team Thorne can max score 2.
True.
So you're only going to be down 1 if they end up getting their deuce with hammer.
Yeah.
So, don't mind that call either. I like the draw, preferably on 7th end. I'm perfectly fine with being up 1 or down 1 without or with.
I think this is an interesting part of every game, right?
Absolutely.
Is you have to make that decision. What am I good to go forward with in the 8th end in terms of a score line? So
it just seems like since they called the timeout, they wanted the blank.
Yeah.
This draw is kind of flip-flopping.
Exactly. So I think this might be something that the team revisits.
Absolutely.
And just to have a conversation about the thinking and what led to this decision.
Yeah. The way the rock is curling, it seems lighter than Rebecca's. Probably back 12. So yeah, they make the freeze/draw. You freeze.
Yeah.
You get your force.
Just to cut you off a little, sorry. I think another thing that Team Zemmelink could have considered when making that decision was, what does the opponent not want you to do? And I think if I'm playing on Team Thorne, I'm thinking that corner guard's helping me, and I would like them to keep it there for me. And I think maybe that's another point that they could think about in terms of their decision of that shot. But we'll see Lindsay throw an in-turn draw here, try to get behind that corner and be shot. So I think this is a opportunity for a learning moment for Team Zemmelink. I mean, it's one thing to have the kind of the house board and you have all the stones and everything, but I think until you live it, sometimes you learn it when you see it. So it'll be interesting to see if Team Zemmelink can try to limit Team Thorne to just a single.
It's definitely an arguable point. You can argue both sides, right? Because at max you're giving up 2, you're down 1 with in the last end.
Yeah.
This isn't an easy shot. She's trying to pick it, I think.
We have another final on sheet 1. We had Team Steele.
Team Steele winning 10-4 over Team Dobson. And just to update the rest of the sheets, on sheet 2, Team Vivier or Bowen is up 7-4 with hammer in the 7th end. On sheet 5, it is 5-2 for Team Acoin.
Alcoin.
And
Apologize.
on sheet 6, Team Lattissier is up 5-3 over Team Johnson. That's pretty good. Pretty good for me.
We have we have some very close games on most of these sheets. Emily's doing everything she can to hold it straight. And it looks like a jam, so Team Thorne will have an opportunity for 2 points with hammer.
Yeah.
So I think they're just kind of deciding on the path they're going to throw to make that nose hit. So looks like they chose the out turn, and with that ice given, it seems like they're going to throw a softer weight hit to try to control that shooter and stick around. Line's looking close for this one. The sweepers are on it to
Big
hold
sweep
it.
to try and stick around here. It's a great shot.
Yeah, good team shot. And I mean, skips deuce this early in the season. Lindsay and her team must be loving to see that. And I mean, it'll be a close one headed into 8.
And like we talked about for Team Zemmelink, you're in a good position.
Yeah.
If you ask a lot of teams in any competitive level, they'll say that they're perfectly happy being down 1 with going into the last end. And for Team Thorne, you almost have to play this like you're conceding 1.
Yeah.
So
Or
my
you-
team, preferably, we put this top 4 foot.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of teams who throw the center guard being up 1 without. So I'm sure they talked about it before the game. It looks like they're trying the guard here.
I think the one thing that's very interesting about the last end, especially when it's just 1 point, is I feel like there's a little bit more pressure on Team Zemmelink to make it happen and score the 2, whereas Team Thorne headed into this end, like you said, they almost are conceding the 1, so if they want to finish it in 8, they're almost going for a steal.
Yeah, you see a lot of teams play for the steal when they're up 1 without. It's definitely what your team decides.
Yeah.
Like if we refer to my team, we decide that we're absolutely okay with giving up 1. We're not going to play with the steal for the steal. We're just playing to force. So that's why we go top 4 in our first couple, first stone. Some other teams would argue that they want to win in 8, so they put the center guard.
I mean, I know my team, whenever I played, which feels like eons ago, like we would always we liked our chances being up without hammer and going for the steal. And
Yes,
it's I mean, it worked on you a couple times. But we always liked to be the aggressor and make the team match our level of execution. But at the end of the day, it all just comes down to who's going to make the shots.
Yep, absolutely. And looks like Team Thorne is taking a note out of your playbook, throwing a double center here. They do not want to play an extra. I think is basically what they've decided. And I think that's going to be the only corner guard you see out of Zemmelink. I think after this double center, you're going to see a draw. Try to beat them to the pot, I imagine. It's going to be hard to draw around the corner, so you're probably drawing around the center guard here.
Yeah. And that's where I also think if your Team Thorne, bringing the play to the middle is what you're looking to do. And especially, I mean, I know that guard didn't line up perfectly to where they were looking to go, but it makes it a lot difficult to access that corner guard. So, and I mean, I guess the only thing we haven't talked about either, and every team has a different strategy, but if Team Thorne was throwing the center guard, potentially Team Zemmelink could have tried to beat them there first. Went top 4, bring the play to them with only one guard, and then expose it and open it up and try to get your two like the opposite way as which you would like against traditional curling textbook stuff.
Yeah, I like that thought. I think to argue it, you want one corner guard just to be able to hit and roll behind. But I like this draw around the center. After they throw a double center, you're basically saying, you know, I got to beat them to the pot, and then I can start peeling slash setting up my deuce.
Big hold by McKenna. Oh.
It's a great shot by Celeste, being top 4 foot. Almost this early in the end, you could argue saying that that's your 1 point. How do I get my deuce?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really important for Team Thorne to remember their end goal. Giving up 1 is fine. Stealing is good as well. And I think the best way to do that would be to call a freeze.
Timeout.
Timeout by Coach Wilson. I believe the coach of Team Thorne has won a couple of awards at the U21 provincial level. So you know that the advice that she's going to give to her team is going to be
U20 now.
U20, yeah. See, I'm that old.
I know. Yeah.
Hey, you are too.
Same. Yeah.
But
I like this timeout. They have 2 timeouts left. I think you want to discuss this spot. It's obviously an important part of the game.
yeah,
You could argue she's probably arguing playing a run back / tap maybe. Though you did throw those center guards, you're in after Celeste made that great draw. You're not in a great spot. So how do you force them / how do you steal?
yeah. I think if I were Team Thorne, I would be throwing the freeze just to shrink the scoring area and potentially have it as a setup for later in the end. Because I mean, if you think about it, right now the scoring area is gonna, if this shot's made, the scoring area is now what, 2 feet in diameter.
Yep.
So it'll be a big shrink of the scoring area if we see, I believe it's Rebecca, or no, It's Emily, pardon me, if we can see Emily lock one on there.
Yeah, I think because they didn't change the call after the timeout, but I think they agreed that if they could leave about half of it open to be able to tap it / raise it, and that's it's a great timeout in general to focus on rock placement here. Really trying to get it by the center guard here. Oh, and they got a sweep for weight. Trying to cut that scoring area down as much as possible. It's a good sweep by Brooke and Rebecca.
I don't mind where it ended up. I mean, obviously, the closer to the Red Rock, the better. But I mean, given the tolerance, that's something that you can use, where if it was behind the tee, there's not as much that you can do about it.
And the way both skips are calling this, it's going to be an aggressive end for sure. This is definitely the most rocks in play we've seen. And for Team Thorne, now they have to figure out how are they going to shrink the scoring area as much as possible here. So it looks like Emily is trying the tap here. Trying to shrink that scoring area as much as possible.
Yeah, I think the other rock Team Thorne looked at was maybe running that side red one in, but I actually don't mind leaving it there because it blocks the path into the middle. So
it also makes your yellow one now, you just raised one and you're kind of controlling the control zone a little bit here. And that's exactly why Tori is playing this hit. I think right on the nose is a really good shot. You probably don't want to roll in solely because it's just more center guards at that point.
So this would kind of be like a setup shot.
Yeah, you're trying, because right now on the left side of your screen, you only have a tap to the 4 foot. There's no draw paths anymore.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to make sure you have a path for your skipper to draw for your deuce. Whether that's a tap or a draw.
Big hold by Celeste here.
Just by, and ended up a good shot as you're sitting one buried behind 2 center guards. Yes, you tapped the yellow one a little closer, but you have a draw path for your skip now. For Team Thorne, I think it's time to play the run back. You're not in the best position to force, as Tori has the whole 4 foot on the right side to draw for her deuce. So I absolutely like nosing this. And trying to create opportunity to get your force.
I mean, Sam, the other thing that Team Thorne could consider is maybe just blocking things off and just trying to hope that their rock that they have biting the 4 foot is good enough to make the force.
It's definitely an option.
Because I just worry if this run back isn't made properly, it could open it up for Team Zemmelink on their next one.
That kind of works out. Both those red ones are visible from the hack now, so a double is there.
Yep.
For Tori, she probably wants... It's a tough position to be in. You don't want to throw a center guard.
Yeah. Sam, if you're Team Zemmelink, is your first priority getting a second one in there for second shot, or is it to just conserve what you have, maybe throw a guard or try to block that red-red combination?
I don't love the guard because you only have like a wide draw for your deuce right now.
Yeah.
I don't mind tapping that red one, and maybe even a double split on it, like tapping it right to your shot rock.
I see.
And I don't mind the peel. The peel could be... it's a little defensive, but you do need to remember that you need to at least score 1 for the game to continue. So I like the peel. I think there could be a lot of good things that happen with this peel. The red one could go back into the rings.
True.
No phone calls, please. A little thinner and you would have seen it catch the yellow, which could be bad or good depending on what angle you hit it on. I like that call solely because you're giving your skipper more options. The only defensive part about it is if Team Thorne makes this double, they're sitting 2 without last rock. And I think the double is the call if you're Team Thorne.
Yeah.
And I like that Emily walked all the way down the sheet. She discussed it with her skip. She cleans the path all the way back down. Just communication all around. In the first game of the season, communication is obviously key.
Yeah.
So it's great to see early on in the season for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing to say, I want to make communication better in general, but physically going down there and talking it, like that's a way to measure it and see it in action. So.
Absolutely.
So, Team Thorne looking for another double.
If it crosses the center, absolutely the right way to miss it.
Yes.
Peeling the guard obviously would be okay, but that gets rid of a scoring point. And for Team Zemmelink, puts you in a weird spot. I like the hit and roll. If you could hit and roll to just the other half of the yellow, that's a good setup shot. Even if you nose it, it's not the end of the world. It's not. Shot called and made for Team Zemmelink. And for Team Thorne, opportunity to hit and sit 2. Very tight port, so you imagine she's probably throwing normal weight here. Just curls enough. It's a great shot. So it looks like a nice hit and roll by Lindsay Thorne. And Team Zemmelink is probably throwing a control to board weight hit and roll under the corner. This will move. We've seen it curl. Heavy call out of Emily Vidal out of her hand. Hit and stick to be shot stone. And a tricky hit and stick for Lindsay Thorne. If she rolls out, Team Team Zemmelink will have a nose hit for 2. So she'll want to stay in the 8-foot here. Looks like she has a little more broom than Team Zemmelink had, so imagine she's throwing a little less weight than Tori did. Because she knows she needs to stay in the 8-foot, at least full 12-foot. The dining room. So it looks like they're trying to make it curl so it sticks around. And because of the weight choice, it does, and that is a great shot. So decision time for Tori. Does she play the double for the win, or does she draw / hit and roll to force the extra end? The angle is there where she can make the double. So as a skip, you have to decide whether you're feeling confident in the shot you're playing. She puts the broom and she's playing the double. It looks like it's a half of a rock. A thin half. She's probably throwing normal up weight here. And it will move off the center, so they're going to have to stay close with their line calls. Probably close. It looks very close. Trying to make a curl. Just not thick enough. And it'll be a steal of 2 for Team Thorne and the win. 6-3 is your final. Great first game of our tournament this weekend, and we have the men's draw starting at 2 o'clock, and we'll see you in 20 minutes. Thank you everyone for coming and watching. What a great game.